What up, what up, what up? Danielaugustin here. Another episode of Multi-Hyphenate after week 12 of college football. Good stuff, man. Good stuff, man. All right, let's get into Kansas and BYU. So, man, I had a lot of hate in the comments last week because I was one of those firm believers that Utah got cheated in that game last week. I think what ultimately transpired in that situation is, despite the fact that it was a rivalry game, BYU showed their hand. They've been winning way too many of these games in the final minute. You're not going to be able to play like that all season, okay? You are playing with the college football gods, messing around and literally coming down to the wire constantly. And BYU has just been gambling like that all season. And that's not to say they've been trying to do that. When it comes down to a season, you're not just looking at a quick picture of where you are 9 weeks into the season. It's a marathon. And I think the fact that BYU has constantly been in these close games, that's like a runner who started out very well and is now starting to slow down a bit. Needs more water, needs a rest. I think BYU, as it pertains to this marathon, is in a very tough spot, and I think they're starting to slow down. I think they might not be finishing the race the way their fan base and the way people thought that they would because of their schedule, because of them being undefeated for so long. BYU has Arizona State coming up next week and then Houston. And I think their magic has run its course. They had all the chances that they needed. Multiple drives that got into the goal line, got into the red zone, and they couldn't convert. Couldn't get points. Not got a field goal. No, didn't get points. Into the first half, they threw an interception after a great drive. Threw an interception, went into halftime without getting the points that would have really given them the momentum going into halftime. And they got the ball back out of halftime. So they would have gotten points, got out of halftime, and then got the ball back. They went into halftime, tied 10-10. So they would have come out of halftime winning 17-10. They got a field goal that's 20-10, and now Kansas is playing from behind. I mean, Kansas is going to struggle if they're playing from behind. This Kansas team, I think, is better when they can get ahead and stay ahead. They have firepower, but they're not consistently firing on all cylinders. So if you can get this Kansas team to be behind and to start doubting themselves and to start seeing themselves as a team that they were at the beginning of the season, more than likely you win. And BYU wasn't able to do that. They weren't able to win when it came to able to loft a fade pass, but he essentially just threw a bad pass. I mean, you got to get it to the sideline to where if your receiver can't catch it, at least the DB can't. And he threw a pass that was perfect for the DB to catch. Okay. And if anything, his wide receiver should have turned into the DB on that play, but that didn't happen. But Mello Dotson, again, at the end of the first half, right before halftime, I'm talking about, he picks the pass off, huge play. And then at the end of the game, on BYU's final drive, on 3rd and 5, BYU tries to run an option play. And I'm not saying it's a bad call. It wasn't a bad call, but Mello Dotson makes a play. The wide receiver on that side of the field did not make the block. Mello Dotson avoids the block, comes down, makes the tackle, and then BYU gets a delay of game penalty or a false start penalty or a legal motion penalty. I forget what it was. And then they end up with a 4th and 11. Yes, that's a series of events that just took place, but it starts off with that corner, making that play, making a stand at the end of the first half, at the end of the game. BYU, if they can convert on those plays in the red zone, no less, they win this game. But I think the magic has run its course. Because next week you have Arizona State, and Arizona State is probably one of the toughest teams in the conference. BYU has to absolutely win that game. They can't afford another loss. Okay. As far as that call last week, let me just address that really quick. I saw a couple other angles. There were some people who sent me something. I don't know if somebody said that they sent me a clip, but I never saw them send me anything. I did see some stuff on X though. And sure, it was holding. Now, with that being said, I think you can call holding on every single play in college football. In football, in general, high school, college, NFL. You can absolutely call holding on every single play. You can call holding on the corner, and at the end of the day, you can more than likely call a push off or offensive pass interference on the wide receivers. The referees did not call a single pass interference call on Utah that entire game. Yet they call one on that play. The DB did not do anything to ruin the wide receiver's route. He didn't do anything to throw off the wide receiver's route. That DB who had that penalty on him in that week before had his hands on the receiver within that 5 to 7 yard radius where a defensive back is allowed to put their hands on a wide receiver. He didn't pull him down. He didn't yank him down by the back of the jersey. Nothing like that. There was no moment where you can see the receiver's jersey being pulled off of away from his pads. That never happened. So you don't throw a flag on that play. These guys are playing a hard-fought battle. I think the DB he put his hands on him. Absolutely. Did he hold him? He did. But I think he held him so that he didn't fall. To jam him, you can throat jam wide receivers. And if you can literally put your hands on a receiver's throat and a ref never see it, never call it, why the hell can't you I'm just going to tug on you right quick just so I can turn too, because I see you're turning right now. You're trying to catch me off guard. Wide receivers have the advantage. Every single play, because I know when I'm about to cut 5 yards, 7 yards. I know when I'm about to make this move. Okay, boom, just made that move. Quick push off. Every single play where you see a wide receiver in a deep ball, back shoulder throw, a wide receiver pushes off. Every single play. Okay, fine. Not every 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 times. Maybe even 9 out of 10. So I don't necessarily want to hear it when it comes down to people saying, he cheated. He did. There's cheating going down on every single play. Every play, there's somebody holding somebody. Okay, so swallow the damn whistle. There were 2 to 3 other wide receivers on the field at that time. Retzloff got sacked. He didn't even get the ball off. And he wasn't throwing to that wide receiver. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I think the magic is over as far as BYU goes. I think BYU has a solid team that plays together. Their strength is really more so in their balanced attack. And they have 2 really great running backs, good running backs, who run downhill, are strong, powerful backs, and they have a very competent quarterback, a couple talented wide receivers in Chase Roberts and Darius Lassiter, and they have a secondary that's been making plays. Not necessarily a secondary that has been stellar or has been forcing you into turnovers. I would more so say it's a secondary that finds themselves in the right place at the right time and makes plays, which has been a lot like their season. I think they lose to Arizona State next week, and I think they potentially even lose to Houston. They're still going to a bowl game, but I think this BYU team is in a spot where they might not find themselves in the Big 12 title. I could be wrong. They could lose to Arizona State, but not lose to Houston and maybe still make it to the Big 12 title game because a bunch of teams are sitting there with 2 losses. So let's be clear. I believe I could be absolutely wrong, but I do think that BYU's coming up into this stretch now where they're playing some of the most athletic teams that they've played towards the end of the season, or some other teams that have maybe not just the most athletic, but most balanced. Arizona State is probably the most balanced team in the Big 12. Kansas is a team that they're better than their record says. Arizona State is probably exactly what their record says. And Houston is a team that is streaky and athletic. So is BYU going to be able to bounce back after this loss? I don't know. I think the air might be out of the balloon. I think they're going to be incredibly emotional because they just beat that Utah team last second. Now you got to try to overcome that. Then you lose to Kansas, a team that people have given up on. So now you have to overcome losing to one of the teams that have been one of the worst teams in the conference. Now you're going to play Arizona State, which is a team that is fighting for their Big 12 title hopes. That is literally like the worst scenario you can ask for. It's bad timing. The marathon running BYU Cougars are slowing down. Even in that win they had over Utah, I think that was them slowing down. I think that was a situation where you saw just about what you needed to see from this BYU team. They have not been surging at the right time. It's a shame that BYU lost this game. It's a shame that they lose out on this magical season. It's a shame that they're no longer undefeated. It's a shame that they got Arizona State coming up. This week of practice for them is going to be huge. They got their work cut out for them. Okay. They won the total yard battle in this game, 354 yards. They outthrew the Kansas Jayhawks. They outran the Kansas Jayhawks. And they averaged more yards per play. They had more first downs. They were 30% on third down. That needs to be better. And they had more plays than Kansas. 63 plays to Kansas's 52. They punted the ball less. But they turned the ball over more. And both teams had the ball about the same amount of time. So BYU losing this game is it's indicative of what they got left in the tank. Not scoring on that last drive in the first half, bad sign. Now you got to try to come back. They come back after halftime, and they basically had a 10-minute drive and scored 3 points. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, they were up 13-10 at that point. That's fine. But then Kansas gets the ball back. Kansas drive stalls. Kansas has a pooch punt, and the punt bounces off of a BYU player's helmet. Kansas gets the ball at the goal line, and Kansas scores. You can't write this. You can't make this up. And Kansas ends up winning this game off of that play. You can't make this up, man. Kansas is a team that has the magic right now. They are a team that is playing with momentum. They're playing their best ball. Do they need to play better? Sure. Can they play better? I don't know. But Kansas has a very talented team. Luke Grimm, Quincy Skinner, Jalen Daniels, Neal, very talented team. Mello Dotson, the other corner, I forget his last name, Kobe something. Very talented team. I want to see Kansas get into a bowl game, but not at the expense of Colorado. I'm happy for Kansas to get this win against BYU. I do think BYU had it coming. I think BYU had been running on fumes. It's still a very special season. Let's just be real. It's still a very special season for BYU. They still have an opportunity to make it to the Big 12 title game. I just think BYU is coming up on one of the quietest bullies of the Big 12. Is BYU going to be able to stop the run next week? And if they can stop the run, can they stop Jordan Tyson? Are they going to be able to hold off Arizona State, who is surging at this time and playing some of their best ball? I can't wait to watch. It's going to be one of the biggest games in the Big 12. Arizona State and BYU and Colorado and Kansas are the highlight Big 12 games next week. Iowa State's going to be watching those games. They want to see, Iowa State wants to see BYU or Colorado lose. And then they want BYU to lose to Houston in the last game of the season. So BYU can have 3 conference losses, and they can be sitting there with 2. So BYU's loss turned the Big 12 into a showdown of sorts. If BYU wins this game but loses next week, well, then they're good. They're getting to the Big 12 title and possibly still get their college football playoff bye. And now, this BYU team, there's a potential. There's a chance that they don't make the Big 12 title game. There's a chance that they don't make the college football playoffs. Keep your eyes out on this BYU team moving forward. I think they are running out of gas. They have been running on fumes towards this entire end of the season, and I think we've seen the most from this team. I wouldn't be surprised if they end this season with 9 wins. They got 9 wins now. I don't know. They might not win another game until they get to a bowl game. I mean, maybe they beat Houston, but like I said, Houston's athletic. They're talented. They just haven't been able to put it all together. And if BYU is going to be losing towards the end of the season, now it's time to find out, are they the kind of team that can bounce back after a loss? We've seen you win games after you won that last game, but you're running on fumes, and now you just lost the game to a team that people felt was the worst team in the conference. Can you bounce back after that? You haven't had that happen all season. You've won games by way of people thinking that the refs cheated for you. You've won games by your merits and by your skill set. You won games in the last minute because your quarterback was able to move the ball down the field. You've won games because of your poise. You've won games because you've been able to blow teams out and you've been able to beat them on special teams, offense, and defense. Can you win a game after you lost? Let's find out.